Krishnaya. Good morning, everybody. And we felt it's just right. We're in the Christmas season, yeah. It's a wonderful time of the year. And we're going to talk about theology as withering away. Well, there was some confusion about wither and weather. Well, and to dry up, to desiccate, to atrophy, kind of shrivel. Well, it's a clear cut, at least to me. But somebody is saying, you're going to speak about where theology is going to? I said, yeah, you could club both of them together. Let's have a look. But yes, theology. And I'll make a sharp distinction between theology and religion as I speak. Also, why is theology, as you saying, withering? Is it true? My answer, a short answer is both yes and no. And you'll say, what kind of answer is this? Both yes and no. So I'll try to place before you the salient points of why I think we need to rethink our approach to religion and truth. Religion has been one of the most powerful factors that has molded human minds and, as a consequence, societies. Why? Yeah, well, we had no choice, you can say. And it's not just, I'm not just talking about 2,000 years. People have the idea that religion started some 2,000 or 4,000 or 6,000 years. No, it's not that. We are an ancient species. And religion has been with us for a very, very long time in our ancient, you can say, beginnings. Why is then religion such a powerful factor, apart from the other factors? Well, it has supplied the highest motives to humankind. And apart from the highest motives, we also find religious activity has a marked, you can say, distinction of having a superfine energy to it. It's a highest display of human ethics and human thought. So the finest is this, human thought is religion, and it has been with us all these years. So what is then theology? It's a systematic development of ideas related to the nature of God and the nature of religious beliefs. This is theology in brief. Okay. So it comes from two words, theos and logos. Theos, we know, yeah, that's a Greek word, theos, God or the deity. Latin, it becomes Deus. And then we know there's something called Dios, Spanish. Now compare this ancient word with the Sanskrit word Devas. You see the kind of connection there. The Sanskrit word Devas is nothing but gods or bright beings. And we have another beautiful word called the Logos. It's a very ancient word which has been extensive in Greek thought and Greek literature. This word has kind of been borrowed by the writers of the Gospel as in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and God was the Word. So logos means nothing but ground, wisdom, order, reason, something that's luminous and light. That is what is called logos. And it was first used by Heraclitus in ancient Greece. So these logos and theos, both these words go to make theology. In the beginning, theology, without losing its distinctive kind of character, was part of philosophy. It had not become narrowed down to a sect or a tradition or a kind of, we can say, a culture. So we have theology, as I say, which was beginning as a part of philosophy, and later it diverged. And then we can see, they say theology means it is in possession of the truth. Well, and philosophy is the quest for truth. So they said, no, we won't have anything to do with philosophy anymore. We are in possession of truth. And that was the first, you can say, misstep. The moment you say, I am in possession of truth and no one else, you've taken a wrong step, and we have been blundering about. So each theology, religion-specific, culture-specific, I'm not talking about a particular religious theology. Every religion has its own branch of theology. And in time, the theology grew into many branches and sub-branches. And each branch, I mean, if I reel out some of this, the subdivisions of theology, it will make your head reel and my head reel too. But then we want some clarity here. We don't want any reeling heads. And each branch of theology became, as it were, an ivory tower. Now, if you get all these guys together, take them down from the ivory towers and put them in a kind of a room and ask them to debate, you see the sparks flying about. They will not agree on anything. There must be something which we need to look even beyond these theological debates. And religion has been debating within itself, intra and inter, with other theologians. What's the nature of this truth? Everybody says we are in possession of the truth. There's no doubt about it. And everybody thinks my truth is the only truth. Well, Swami Vivekananda loved to kind of tell humorous stories and jokes, and he had a ready laughter. He used to tell a joke about a preacher demonstrating to his congregation, which are hanging on every word, how creation began. From the Genesis, he's speaking about Genesis. And then he says, and God, then he took some clay, and then he molded a form, and etc., etc. And then he takes that form and sticks it against a fence to dry. So somebody in the congregation says, hey, wait there, preacher. Who built that fence? So the preacher says, Hey, Joe, don't be asking such questions. You'll be smashing all theology. And Swamiji used to say this and laugh and laugh and laugh. You'll be smashing all theology. There are certain questions, when asked at the appropriate time and in the manner, will smash all theology. And it is found in the very word theology itself. Well, so for the last thousands of years, people have been reading, writing, studying. People have been going to the seminaries and spending their life there. People have lived for theology. People have died for theology. And millions of books have been written and rewritten, and theses and dissertations have been written on theses and dissertations. Today, all these books are being neglected. The huge section on theology does not attract seekers, does not attract students. Yes, you see, a lot of the seminaries are simply going to rot. Did we go somewhere wrong? We spent all these thousands and thousands of hours studying something which has been found to be irrelevant in today's world? It's something like that. So we have all these academicians and divines and professors and teaching theology, and there are some who are still learning. Theology then, as we know, became more and more crystallized. And when theology becomes crystallized, it becomes something called the dogma. And the dogma becomes, people who adhere to that dogma become dogmatic. The moment you become dogmatic, you are not looking at truth. You are looking at dogma. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Grantha and Granthi. Grantha is books, and Granthi is knots. So you read too much books, you'll get yourself into an intellectual or kind of whatever, spiritual knots. He also used to say that, well, if the rainfall for the year has been predicted in an almanac, you squeeze the almanac, you won't get a drop of water. So you won't get truth in books. Even St. Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, he says, not of the letter, but of the Spirit, for the letter killeth, and the Spirit gives life. So here we have a very clear distinction between what letter is, letters and letters and letters, books and books and books, and filling hundreds and hundreds of libraries all over the world. And people have poured down on those books, tried to master them. Well, will all this wither? Yeah. Oh, where will it go? It will go like all things in the humanity's lumber rooms. The first problem is theology. Swami Vivekananda has made a very clear distinction between the East and the West when he says, religion became stunted in the West, and then it became a caricature because there was no freedom given in the field of religions. In India, there was tremendous religious freedom, and religion simply took off. We had no popes and cardinals and bishops telling you what to do and what to think. Each man, each woman, each child had his or her own unique way to the divine. No one coat fits all or should ever fit all. Otherwise, you don't understand humans. But he says, in India, we put those fetters on society. And as a result, society never grew. You see, in most of the Asian societies, they never grew because there were so many fetters. So society was cramped. They put those clamps to eliminate competition, to eliminate exploitation. So here society was clamped, but religion grew. In the West, he's saying religion was clamped down, society was given that freedom after the Renaissance, of course, not before that. And society. So he's saying we'll have to learn from each other. From here, we'll need to take off the shackles of society, and there you'll need to take the shackles of religion. And then there will be a wonderful combination of both, you can say, cultures. There will be a kind of a universal culture of freedom in religion, of freedom in society, which is the essential, you can say, motive power in every human being, freedom. So, the first problem in theology is creationism. Well, if you have somebody going to tell you that more than 6,000 years ago, about 6,300 years, 200 years ago, God created this universe. And you had huge, you can say, dissertations, books written by these great theologians like Thomas Aquinas or St. Augustine and all these things, basing their brilliance on things which they have taken for granted. Well, you know, Bishop Ussher, he calculated by studying the genealogies in the Bible, that this is where it all began. Yeah. And he also said, yeah, the Garden of Eden was somewhere in what is called Iraq now, Old Babylonia. So here we have, and then you have something called science. We'll simply dismiss all this rubbish. What's wrong with these guys? And religion, theology tried to suppress science, which it tried to do for centuries. We have some representatives like Galileo and all these things. But when Copernicus, he came out of this mold, said, oh no, Earth is not at the center of things. What's this kind of ridiculous thing? And then the whole picture began changing. We, as it were, swerved. By the way, there's a book called Swerve. It's a brilliant book. I would recommend you read this. We swerved from that old theological structures, and we were saved. It grew. Science and human societies grew. Then the second problem that theology was so immersed in is the punishment element. Sin and Satan. Oh my God. We're just talking about the fire and brimstone this morning. The more the preacher could speak about fire and brimstone, the better preacher he was. It became so much that there's a separate branch of study called demonology. Studying demons. Imagine. So Satan and evil was real. These are all relative things. We won't go into the question of evil, but they were so immersed in this element of punishment. And those who studied it became now moral judges. They could judge people and judge cultures and judge civilizations if you don't do this, you are immoral. And that was another problem of theology. They became moral judges. I mean, for others, of course. This kind of stance has led to religious wars. And we know for the last 1500 years or more, at the basis of most wars, there has been commerce, but it has been religious. Even today, we are in that stupid mold of fighting for religion. Can't imagine, can't believe, with all our intelligence, with all our advancements, we are still stuck up in some old Bronze Age worldviews. How can that be? You are living today in today's worldview, which has expanded to 13.8 billion years old universe. But these people have simply discarded. So wars and genocides and inquisitions and millions of people have been killed. Women have become, you can say, widows, and children have become orphans. There has been untold suffering brought on human societies by religion. And theologians were, as I say, the cutting edge of these movements to decimate other beliefs. Oh yes, kind of amazing. And they took it upon themselves as, we know what is truth, we are the moral judges, we will do everything in order to quash every other separate belief. They have been believing in their beliefs. They have not been believing in truth or in God. This was another big problem. The third problem, one of the problems is, as we know, politics. Politics is another powerful kind of, you can say, force. So today's preachers do a political speak. Yeah. And our religious preachers, they do a political speak. These guys, the founding fathers, and they knew what they were doing when they separated the church from the state. But unfortunately, that separation was only a kind of a semblance. Religion has always been a bedfellow with politics. And these two things, the mixture is disastrous. Politics will use religion, religion will use politics. This has been another bane of religion. And when you are in possession of the truth, you stop evolving. You stop seeking, you stop searching. Like theology is in possession of truth, and philosophy is the quest of truth. They dismissed philosophy as of no consequence. So this great tradition in the West, the Greek traditions, were all discarded. A few things were taken kind of convenience, cherry picking, and the rest was all discarded. Yeah, we know what it is. And that was the end. There was no dialogue. So are we out of the woods yet? No. Have we had enough of the theology? Swamiji says that even if you have the most moral idea of God, the ruler as a governor, the old ideas of monarchy, simply won't do today's world. We have something called a democracy. Even if you have someone, a governor, a ruler, or a king, we have these old ideas of kings and emperors and all. So God is a king and he's got a throne and a kind of kingdom. You see, the language follows your old ancient beliefs. Christ the King is born. King? What king? There was no king. So we So that he's saying, Swami Vivekananda said, does not explain the universe. You have the most moral God, ideas of God, and the most benevolent governor. That's not explaining your life and the universe around you. Whence did it come? So here we are stuck with unanswered questions. I'll bring you another concept. Most of us kind of fall on a kind of continuum. There are two subjective, you can say, religious orientations. One is intrinsic and the other extrinsic. The intrinsic subjective orientation to a religion is this person will live religion. Yes. So Swami Vivekananda says, if dogma or theology obstructs you from truth, give it up. So this person, the intrinsic person, will live religion. The extrinsic person will use religion, will use symbology, will use the community, will use rituals, the charities and the churches and the mosque and everything else. That person will be just a kind of a fixture in the wider religious landscape. So when, just to give up this idea that you are born, Swami Vivekananda said, it's good to be born in a church, but bad to die there. So this person will keep on being comfortable in that milieu, in that culture, in that language, in that beliefs. He will use everything. Swami Vivekananda says, he used to quote actually Thomas A. Kempis in The Imitation of Christ. He says, O God, who art truth, make me one with you in love everlasting. I am often wearied by the many things I hear and read, but in you is all that I long for. Let the learned be still. Let all creatures be silent. You alone speak to me. This is the intrinsic attitude towards religion. He will use religion. All the books and all the things that you are useless. You don't use them as props. You've been using religion as a prop, and you pull those props away and everything collapses. So either we are on one side, there's a polarity there. Either we are on one side or the other side. Some of us fall into on that continuum, as I said, somewhere. There are some who sometimes live religion, sometimes use religion. Now, there is something called, especially in the current, you can say, thoughts in Judaism, there's something called off the path. That is, you step out of the path that has been chalked out for you by your religion and your theology and your culture. It's a step off the path and start thinking for yourself. This is the field of inquiry. You inquire. And the stepping of the path is like an exit. You exit. But like you exit out of this door, but you reach out to a wider kind of area. So every inquiry is like an exit. You exit out to a greater truth that is manifest out. So come out of your narrow hole, Swamiji says, and see how the world is moving about. So this is called a return to questioning. These are some of the new kind of trends of thoughts that I have. It's a return to questioning. There was a time when it was obeyed unquestioningly. Now they encourage you to return to questioning. And that will keep you away from dogmatism. So we had begun with the idea of the logos. Yeah, theos and logos, theology. You know what's logos? Yeah. Well, it has been one of the central concepts in Western philosophy and very sadly neglected. Logos means, as I just mentioned at the beginning, wisdom, divine wisdom, order, structure, reason, ground. And then we have something called, it's implicit in the cosmos. Logos? Yes. It's not hanging somewhere out, It is implicit and it gives things meaning. Well, people say, what is the meaning of life and what is the meaning and purpose of life and this and that? Look for the logos within you. Look for that ground, the foundation within you. Another word that is kind of a cognate is cosmos. Cosmos is something that is ordered. It's a system. It has come out of chaos. Now, chaos is something disorderly. Yeah, everything is kind of disorder. But the original meaning of chaos was the foundational ground from which emerges cosmos. So chaos and cosmos have been those two ancient Greek words which have been very important. In fact, the very basis of Greek philosophy is these two words. Cosmos, chaos, which is akin to the logos. Now, when you say that the logos is implicit in everything and in everyone, it has not percolated down to our everyday life and thought, but it has a semblance of it, especially in law. When even a person who has committed the most heinous acts is given a chance to be heard, is tried in a court of law. We just simply don't, that guy's head needs to get out because he has taken some other guy's head. We'll hear him out. There's something that is transcendent in the person. Something implicit, whether you call it the humanity within the humans, but then you're only constraining yourself to the humans only. This logos is immanent in all creation. And so, how do we manifest this logos? And as I said, Theos is the shining, the divine ones, the deity, the God. So if you take logos as the shining deities inside, you have to manifest this. So another meaning of the word logos is truth. It's light. You're going to manifest this truth and light. How? By living your life as truth and life. Is there a Sanskrit, you can say, equivalent to logos? Yes. And this was a similarity between these two old civilizations. There's something called the sphota, that which manifests, that which comes into being. Swami Vivekananda says, in the beginning, like John says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was. So Swami, in the beginning, there was Hiranyagarbha, the golden womb of Brahma, the creator, or he's saying, the cosmic mind. The cosmic mind first manifested itself as word, as logos or sound. Because that is the essential meaning behind every object. And that meaning then became even more crystallized into this world outside. So it is a logos that has manifested as the meaning and the sensible, the perceptible objects of the world. That same energy has kind of evolved into this. This whole visible universe is a manifestation of that logos. And the meaning behind each and every form, whether sentient or insentient, has a meaning. It is that original, you can say, idea of truth, logos being implicit in creation. So this is the essential material of all names and forms. You think of anything without names and forms, you can't. You have to think in terms of names and forms. And here we are. This logos is nothing but these names and forms in the universe. This is perceptible. This is what is true. So where is that divine element? That divine element will reveal itself to you, which is implicit in you and everything else, when you speak, when you live your life according to the logos. That thing which is implicit within you. If you can live your life oriented towards that, then you're living the life as is really required by life. Now your life has meaning. Now your life has a direction. Now your life is connected with the whole. And it took science to tell us that everything is connected. No life can live in a vacuum, separate. Sorry, it's just not possible. Physically, it's not possible. You'll wither away. Psychologically, you cannot live alone. You will go mad. This very thing should tell you that there is a higher order of reality. If we could have understood this from the very beginning, instead of compartmentalizing truth and ourselves into kind of small bubbles, and we wouldn't have had this kind of human tragedy that we are facing today. We would have respected the environment instead of exploiting it. We would have treated humans as embodied logos, embodied divine wisdom, embodied truth. Then we will be building a society that is consonant with our divine nature and the nature of this universe. This is the society we need to build. And this is the meaning of theology. The rest of the books and all these things have nothing but a huge waste of time and energy and brilliance, all gone wrong. We now went on to the heart of the matter. Like I mentioned, it started with this misstep. We are in possession of the truth. Sorry. And which has kind of taken us a few steps back. So there's that retrograde movement of theology trying to take us back to the best time, the golden times. What's best time, golden times? You've not understood human nature. That human nature has been evolving for millions of years, not just 6,000 years. For millions of years, we have been struggling, we have been surviving. That we are here today means our ancestors have somehow survived this long struggle. And they have been successful, and we are here. Want we carry forward that great legacy? Or be stuck up with some old books telling us old stupid things? Oh yeah, you read, with a critical thinking, you keep on reading books, and then you will say, hey, just wait a minute, preacher, who built that fence? Yeah, don't be asking such questions. Joe, you will be smashing all theology. We need to smash all theology. Okay? And as we kind of live our life in tune with our real nature, we will embrace the whole universe. This is the goal of the real meaning of theology. Om, peace, peace, peace.
I see your face in the sun, making days so very bright. I see your face in the moon, lighting up the darkest night. I see your face in each flower and in every drop of dew. Everywhere I look, there are you. I see you in the mountains with such silent majesty. I see you in the treetops and in birds that fly so free. I see you in the eyes of friends when they look back at me. Everywhere I look, there are you. Even when dark clouds do sometimes hide the sun, and your face seems hidden, and I feel so all alone, I still know that I'm your child, surrounded by your grace. Please keep me ever close to you and show your precious face. I see you in each step I take, in every place I may be, in every face before my eyes, in waves upon the sea, in each and every pleasure, and even in my pain. Oh, everywhere I
Thank you. That was the logos. Yeah. Isn't it wonderful? I had to spend 45 minutes, and you did it in 5 minutes. Wonderful. Thank you very, very much. We have next Sunday, Prabrajika Vrajaprana, Tidings of Comfort and Joy, 19th Sunday. So we can have a few questions, but we'll do that after I wish everybody who are leaving, who are going to leave now. So I'll take a few questions after I greet everybody there. Yeah. So we don't have any questions, we have just, there's a kind of a necessity now that's kind of, it's getting more and more kind of urgent that we seek to know truth within ourselves. So this is one of the advantages of science over other branches of knowledge. You know, the methodology of science is they seek the truth within the nature of that thing itself. If I want to know the truth of this object, I will need to take it apart and see what makes it tick. I don't need to get an extraneous agent to say something was created by something else, which has now no connections at all. The moment you bring an extraneous agent or an agency to explain something which is evident here, you are now swerving away from truth. So the nature of a thing should be able to explain itself. And that has been the powerful, you can say, tool of science. And that's why it's unstoppable. We need to kind of understand this. We don't need others who are on thinking. Now, people have been thinking for us and telling us how to think. Now he's saying, you do your own thinking. And once we get to this, humanity is, in a kind of very conservative in its approach to everything. So, somebody else is doing the thinking for us, thank God. We don't have to bother ourselves. And in the process, we have been misled for a long time. Or rather, we've been running around in circles. The moment you understand it, you don't need someone else to do your thinking, come back. You do your own thinking and come back to your source. Then life becomes, as it were, remarkably, elevating and enlightening. Yeah.
Pranam Maharajji, I am wondering, when in the lecture you mentioned there is no need for any book, anything, but discover your inner being. In that respect, I am curious to know, there are books like Veda, Upanishad, all these are religious scripture are talking about certain aspect of who am I. Would you kindly explain theologies and those books and how I can understand your interpretation of today's lecture? Thank you.
Yeah. What you're speaking about, the literature, especially the Upanishad, they are the jotting downs of sages who experienced the truth. It was always first an experience. Vedanta always has to be understood as it's not something that's speculative. It has been experienced first, and then the philosophical structure has become, you can say, has been built for others to use that philosophical structure and go down to that original experience. While in the West, philosophy, you do philosophy first, and then if you can get into the logos or get into the experience, that's good enough. So whether religion has been practical yes, it has been immensely practical. Somehow we got lost in this question of who am I? Suppose, why do you have to ask yourself, who am I? When the Upanishads, or you can say Vedanta, says that you are the Atman. Why do you need to pursue this who am I business? You have already been told, now live according to that, what you have been kind of. This is the, you can say, there are two types of knowledge. One is provisional knowledge, kind of a temporary. And then when that knowledge becomes realization, that's the paroksha. We have the first stage of knowledge. You meditate, and then when you experience it, not so important. So when you're talking about who am I, and you have read the Upanishads, they are speaking about the truth. And they don't tell you to follow a certain set dogma. They're asking you to live your life according to that truth. If you feel that truth within you, you are living that life of the Upanishads. If you don't feel truth, if you feel your life is a kind of a sham, it's a fake, it's a kind of a delusion, you're going to live like that. You embody that truth, that logos. Now, live your life. You know, Sri Ramakrishna will say, in this age, there is only one spiritual practice, and that is speaking the truth. You know, it takes a tremendous amount of character to speak the truth. So this is where you start. And then as you start, you will see that these Upanishads, that what you have heard and read, will make sense to you. You will be able to gauge where exactly and what exactly is the real meaning behind this massive truth. So live your life according to truth, nothing else. So then Swami Vivekananda says, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divine by controlling nature, both internal and external. That is, control your body and mind and control everything else. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control, by philosophy, by one or more, any one of this, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Doctrines and dogmas and everything are but secondary details. So this is you have that potentiality, now you manifest it. Take up a path, stick to it, and proceed. And your heart will tell you. Your heart does tell you, but sometimes we don't want to listen to it.
Swami, you warned about not following other people's thoughts and theology. I was wondering if there is a way to recognize the truth and also be misled by your own thoughts.
Yes. Now, you know, the mind is kind of restless and it weaves many things. It weaves things out of nothing also. You might see a particular thing and it weaves a false narrative. Most of us have been living this false narrative. But remember one thing, that which is false will always crumble. That which is true will abide. So there have been certain elements in your life that have been abiding. Hold on to that. Because delusion and all these fancies and false narratives cannot stand the truth. You will always find them dissipating once you scrutinize them correctly. So what you do is, if you have a particular set of beliefs or you've been taught certain things, look at it, just question it. And that's what, is that getting off the path. It's something called, they call it off the derenge, off the path. This is the return to questioning. You should start beginning to question. You question, simple question. Is this true or false? And there you'll get. Because what happens is that logos which is implicit within you will not mislead you, will not take you away from truth. Because, if it does, then it's not logos. And if you are being misled, then that's not the truth, that's not the logos. So this is how you, and it's a kind of a remarkable journey, this return to questioning of the path. It is actually, it's an inner growth that you had kind of stalled for so long that you have recommenced. Now you start. It will really can make your life worth living now. You may not succeed completely. You may have certain areas which are still kind of gray, but it doesn't matter. You have begun. Thank you. Good to see you. Devi Prana, she's so nice. So we've come to the end of the questions. Thank you very much. Okay. Om, peace, peace, peace. I wish you all a Merry Christmas in advance, and may the Spirit of Christ be with you all and abide with you forever and ever. Om, peace.